the second congressional district in Oklahoma. So before we get into our conversation, tell me how the race has been. And I understand this is your third time running for office. How does this time around compare to the last previous two times?
Really, things get a little bit easier, more comfortable, more familiar of how the campaign works. That's the biggest difference from the first time to this time is just understanding the things you didn't know. And then you got more name recognition because you've been around. The first one was a statewide race, so all over the state. And now, with this being a congressional district, it's a little smaller, still 26 counties instead of 77, but it's more name recognition. It's getting a little easier. So seeing a lot of people over and over, just getting to know the district.
And so the district where you live, is it predominantly Republican? Right.
Yeah, it's heavily Republican. It's the last I looked at numbers, it was like 265,000 registered Republican voters to about 135,000 registered Democrat voters. So that's heavily Republican.
Like, how do you deal with that? Because it could be tough having a lot of people that don't disagree with you before they even really meet you or understand your policies. They just see that you're a Democrat and they already have a negative opinion against you.
Yeah, yeah, you run into that a lot. So what I've been trying to do this time around is really trying to open up people, to where they let's put the political parties aside because I don't agree with my own party, just like some people within the Republican Party don't agree with some of the way they are on certain things. And just telling to me, it's bringing everybody together as one and taking care of what's better suits in this case, Oklahoma's second congressional district. And making it better for them. To be a representative, I tell everybody, you have to be able to listen to people. And I have to vote the way that they're telling me to vote. With it being a red district, it's mainly depends on who all shows up and what people want to say. But mostly what I've seen is really we're not that far apart as far as the people that I talk to. It's they will need and want the same things. They're seeing the same struggles from the working class side of things that we have common ground issues. So it's trying to open those doors and just have that conversation. You still run into some that, like you said, it's they want to just shut you off and not listen to you because I have a D beside my name. But for most part, I'm getting a lot of people that do want to listen and talk. So it's getting in front of enough Republican voters to have those conversations to convince them that I'm the guy that's better suited than the guy that's supposed to be representing them right now.
Right. So, growing up in that district or just in the community itself, you're around many Republicans. So have you always been a Democrat or, your whole life?
No, no. So, and I'm happy to share that because I share it with a lot of the voters out there. It's growing up, of course, being in this area, it wasn't always red. It was Democratic area for a long, but before me.
Okay.
So, but growing up, I grew up around what I call traditional Republican views. My uncle even worked for Reagan, so I have a lot of ties with a lot of strong traditional Republican views, which helps me talk to the Republican voters. And so I registered at 18, obviously because of what I grew up around as a Republican, not really knowing a whole lot more about anything. I registered as a Republican, stayed that way till 2016, when Bernie Sanders came on scene for the presidential race, and I really loved what Bernie had to say. I got behind his campaign, went out and started knocking doors for him, and that's when I registered as a Democrat, so I'd be able to vote for him in a primary. I've been a Democrat ever since then. I just feel like the Republican Party, when I really started looking at it, was not what I grew up knowing or believing that it was. I felt like it's kind of lost touch with what its base was. And so I moved over to the Democratic Party, and now I'm realizing that at both sides, at the higher levels, it seems like they're not in touch with the people that they should be representing.
Right.
So that's
Because
kind of the story where I came.
yeah, because recently both sides are having an exodus, and a lot of people are exiting both parties, and it seems that people from both sides are becoming, politically homeless because now they don't even have a party that they fully agree with. Both sides are just focused on winning over the other party, not
Yep.
necessarily what's best for the community or for the country for their constituents, but really what's best for having and maintaining their party in power. And that's an issue because now you're more focused on winning the election rather than what you're going to do once you're in office.
Yeah, that seems to be the. I mean, you hit that right on the nose. That's the way it is. It looks like to me the same way that the parties are more trying to keep control or gain control, one of the two of the government instead of doing what's best for the people. And I was out knocking doors yesterday, and that's same thing come across and talk to. Some younger voters. I stopped by. They were out in the garage and just had a conversation with them. And it's the same thing that they said. They really feel like they're not listened to. They're left behind, and they're just tired of politics altogether because they can't see where it's doing anything for them. Where nobody at that level is doing anything to help them out with the struggles that they have, and that's why I'm in the race. I'm tired of it myself.
Hmm. Right. And I mean, it seems that politics has been engineered to just make people angry rather than fix any issues at all.
No, they're not. They're well, no. That and our Congress has proven that over and year after year after year. But the simplest thing is passing a budget. I mean, they can't even do that without fighting and arguing and trying to hold one side hostage or something that they're trying to get. And at the end of the day, it's hurting the American people. I mean, that's they're not doing their job, and that's where we need to hold them accountable. We need people to show up and vote and remove a lot of them. A lot of them in Congress right now need to go.
Most definitely. And what plans do you have once, say you win the election, you're part of the U.S. House of Representatives. Like, what are your plans once you're in there?
What I really want to do, I want to make healthcare something that's actually took care of. I really think that in the great, what's supposed to be the greatest nation in the world, every citizen should have healthcare. We shouldn't have to pay an affordable rate to get. It should be something the universal healthcare that everybody gets, and we need to restructure our tax code to do that. The wealthy need to start taking care of their fair share. Corporations need to pay their fair share so we can have these things. But to do that, we got to take on the politicians that are in there right now, the pharmaceuticals and the insurance companies that are there that are fighting to keep that away because they're wanting to continue the great American dream that they're getting to have, but the working class people don't have anymore. And so it's addressing healthcare, something that I really want. I really want to make where we have a nationwide healthcare that everybody can use. Nobody has to make a decision on getting the healthcare you need or paying for a prescription versus keeping the lights on or putting your kids through school. And restructuring our education system here in Oklahoma, we're dead last in education, and I want to make sure that our public schools are took care of and funded, and have a national standard that they have to live up to, and everybody needs to be taught. So every child has level playing ground to go on and get that other higher education if they need it, or do a trades program where kids that don't want to go to college, that's not for them, but
Mhm.
maybe a trades program to get them a leg up in the industry would help out. So those are some things to start with immediately. Immigration is a big thing on board for me as well. Is our immigration system is busted. I mean, we don't have
Mhm.
one that works. Nobody wants to really fix it. I think we need a better path to citizenship where it's a quicker path and reward people that are in this country trying to do things the right way to become U.S. citizens so they can benefit fully from everything that they have here in this country.
Mhm. Yeah, and I want to take it back to what you said about having like a universal healthcare system and having access to education for everyone. So I'm sure one of the questions you're always going to keep getting asked is how are we going to pay for this? And like, what do you answer to that?
Well, I think it goes back to what they've tried to promise, with the last, well, with this administration when they're running last time, is taking care of America first. Quit spending money all over the place, other countries. Quit doling out monies on wars that we don't need to be involved in. If we rein back in a lot of that spending that we're sending out of here, we could take care of those things. I mean, we look at what we're spending on a war in Iran that we didn't need to be involved in. And reining in that kind of stuff, the money being spent or sent to other countries, and just start really taking care of stuff here at home before we start taking care of the rest of the world. I mean, there's obviously some things that are needed that help protect our interests as well, but we don't need to be involved in so much things outside of the country.
Because we pay taxes, but then we see all this fraud happening and all the misappropriation of funds, and
Mm-hmm.
you start to be very pessimistic on the future because now you're paying taxes, but then you have people in Congress just misspending all of that money. and one of the things are in wars that we don't even need, like the current one happening in Iran. It, it's just um, it almost seems like these wars are just created out of thin air just to keep the military industrial complex going.
Yeah, yeah, and this is something that they want to ask for more money that our taxpayer dollars don't need to be paying for, and it's holding people accountable for that budgeting and holding people accountable for the spending that's going out there. And those are things that do. And like I mentioned, the tax code, re-looking at the tax code where there's not as many loopholes for the wealthy to get by, without paying, their fair share of what needs to be paid and holding the corporations accountable. We're all here to make money, from the working class to the corporations and the companies that provide the jobs. All we're saying is they need to put some back to help take care of the healthcare situation. It'll be cheaper for them in the long run, if they don't have to pay a certain portion towards the healthcare. If they're paying it in taxes of some kind like everybody else is, then eventually it's going to become a cheaper option for our government. It's going to be expensive at first, but as we get going in it, it should start getting cheaper and cheaper, and it's going to address and help take care of a lot of other things as well. The homeless situation, with healthcare is one problem that has it. Actually, having mental health as a real healthcare issue that's took care of and addressed, that would help with some of the homeless situation we have. And then healthcare, where it puts people in bad spots and they end up, having healthcare expenses that bankrupt them, put them out of their house because they lose, can't pay their rent. And then it's a vicious cycle. It's not that homeless people aren't working. I mean, there's people that are working that are homeless, but they can't ever get back on their feet, and then the price of rent, the price of housing, all that plays parts in it. So, we got a lot to do. It's a 2-year term, and we're not going to get it all accomplished in 2 years, but hopefully we can make a big chunk, put out the small fires, and then start working to a better future for long term gain.
Yeah, and when it comes to homeless people, like a lot of these homeless people are not even just one paycheck away from getting on their feet. A lot of these issues, especially around homeless people, is that they have a lot of mental health issues, and
Mm-hmm.
that's something that's not being addressed because it seems that over time the systems that we had in place to prevent such thing from happening has gotten chipped away to the point that now is a huge issue, and you have people running trying to or with a platform trying to improve this issue, but it also seems that having issues is what gets people elected. There's no incentive in fixing the issues because if you run your entire platform on I'm going to improve your life and the life for everyone, what do you do when you've actually gone through with those promises and there's really nothing to campaign on? So it also seems, I mean, it almost seems that having a broken system incentivizes certain politicians from running on that platform, to that they're the only ones that could bring a fix. And but it never happens.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I look like at the immigration system. We talked about doing something for immigration forever, and it's used as a fear tactic. And then they use it as a horrible side when they say we get dangerous criminals and stuff here. When we have people within the United States that are U.S. citizens that are committing dangerous, horrible crimes, it's not that. And but they use it, like you said, they use it as a tool, as something to run on. That we got to do something to address this or fix that instead of taking care of the problem. And to me, and maybe I won't be in there long. I don't know if I can accomplish any of this, which would be great if that's the case anyway, because if I can fix the problems and we have a better country for the people in this country, then I've done my job. That's great, but hopefully that will keep people to keep re-electing you to get the other things took care of what we need. But I'm also a firm believer in term limits as well. So I again don't want to make a career out of this job. I want to do it and try to fix the problems and leave it for somebody else to continue it.
So how hard would it actually be to pass some legislation to have term limits when it comes to people in Congress?
I think it's going to take. I mean, I don't. We got to elect enough right, same-minded people that believe that that's something that needs to happen. That see it as like I do, that I think the longer you're in something, the more likely you are to get corrupt with it or become complacent. And I think it's good to change things up. So there's a lot of people I keep hearing saying that there's term limits is a big issue. So if you're listening to the voters and people are serious about taking care of the voters and doing what they say, it should happen. But I think we're going to have to elect enough people, and we're going to have to change up what's going on. Congress has
Mhm.
got to change and put more people in there that's willing to do that to put it in place.
But do you really think that's possible if there is so much money in politics and so much money in these congressional races? It almost seems that that will just never happen because corporations are buying elections, they're buying it
Uh,
politicians, and
yeah,
these
Citizens United is another fight that's got to, and that's another fight on my deal is trying to get rid of Citizens United, to where we take the money out of where corporations aren't individuals to put money into funds. They shouldn't have that, and I think we need to limit the money that it's allowed to earn to run a campaign, and decide, if say $50,000 is all you can run this campaign on, or something, just grab a
Mhm.
number there and put it out there, and that makes more of a level playing field for every candidate, because I don't have giant donors, and I'm not going to have big donors because I'm not going to take corporation money. Unlike my opponent that I'm running against, Josh Burkeen, he's got a billionaire in Pennsylvania that's funding him, throwing money towards his campaign. And he's a big advocate for the private schools and the voucher programs and scholarship programs and those kind of things. So it's when you start digging in and looking at the money that's coming into these guys, then you see how they're going to vote in certain ways, and it's trying to
Mhm.
educate the people of those things. But it is a fight. I mean, it's not going to be easy taking on. It's going to be it's not going to be an easy job to do, but we have got we got to make the effort to do it, or it will never be done.
So have you faced any challenges not taking any money for your raise?
It's well, what I get from normal everyday campaign, people like us, working
Right,
class
right.
people. That's where I get it. So yeah, it is challenging. It's horribly challenging. You can't in Oklahoma, especially getting on the television, putting ads or those kind of things cost money, especially when you're not the candidate that's expected to win the race. So they don't want to cover you, and you're in a red district, so the whole state's red. But so it's harder to get the radio stations or the TV people to put you on unless you got money to fund to buy your advertisement, basically. And then getting out everywhere you go, it takes money to get from one place to the other. Mine runs from the Kansas line to the Texas line, so it's a long, long area to cover. So it's a lot of gas money traveling up and down. And then you got all your, yard signs and materials you hand out and stuff like that, literature. But it is tough. It's, you're working on a very limited budget for sure.
So that's what's good about podcasts because when it comes to podcasts, you could just get on a podcast and have an interview. But even having an interview or landing an interview, like on the radio, the FCC rules prohibits having one candidate and not having the other. Like if you need to give the equal airtime, right? They have like
Yeah.
equal airtime rules or laws, whatever they are, that you need to give equal airtime to both candidates running for office. But when it comes to podcasts, we don't have the same FCC rules as like radio stations and TV networks have.
Yeah. And then, yeah, and that's a big thing. I've done a few different podcasts, and I appreciate you guys for what you do, because it helps get the name out there, and it really does help bring light to what you're trying to do.
Yeah, and so my goal with having these talks is, I have, of course, everyone has their own opinions on like what they believe. But what I try to do is have a conversation on the policies themselves, on the politicians, and what they're really going to do. Because over, my personal opinions when it comes to the way that I vote is that we need balance. We need Republicans and Democrats to work together because you cannot have uh, one party controlling all the branches of government. Because when you do that, then they start to get overconfident and then they just create this echo chamber. And there's a lot of groupthink, and we've seen that with Democrats and with Republicans. Now you think that everyone believes what you do. And if you don't have that mentality that everyone believes what you do, um, that you're going to do certain things for the benefit of your own party and for your own beliefs. If you believe in abortion and you have like all of these politicians that believe in the same or believe the same thing, you're going to pass, and I'm just using that as an example, but you're going to pass certain laws that will affect certain people, but now you're trying to take advantage of the fact that your own party controls all the branches of government, and you're not really going to care a bit.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly, and that's the problem we got, and that's where we're at now. Is trying, and that's what they try to do is gain power or whatever, so they can get their own agendas run through instead of listening to the constituents. And that's like I was saying earlier, my we do need to get back to where we have both sides actually have conversations and work out, agree to disagree on some things and figure out what you can meet on the middle on and come up with bills that better fit everybody throughout the nation. And that's what I've been telling everybody where I go vote, or I go out to try to get them to vote for me is, I'm the guy that wants to represent you. And by that, I want to represent all of Eastern Oklahoma. So regardless of what party you are, I want to have town halls everywhere where I know where you guys stand and how you want me to vote, so I can go cast my vote the way you want me to vote, not the way I want to vote. I may not agree with what you're wanting me to say, but when the constituents in the majority are telling you that's how you should be voting, that's the way you're supposed to represent and vote for
So, has your district experienced any form of gerrymandering? Because I know that's another huge issue.
them. Yeah. That's another thing I'd love to get rid of is the whole gerrymandering process. But yeah, it has. I mean, we used to be my county, Washington County was in CD1, which was tied in with Tulsa, which is more a bluer area. And so then yeah, the last time when they done it, they gerrymandered us out of CD1, moved us to CD2, and District 5 in Oklahoma is another one that got really hard hit. It was 80 some thousand Democratic votes got moved out of a district. We had a Democratic representative in that office, and the next time around, with the moving those 80,000 votes, swung it to be Republican. So yeah, it happens. It happens everywhere, and I'm not a fan of it either way. Whether it's in a red state or a blue state, I really think it should just be draw district maps. I mean, we got modern technology now.
Mhm.
Run the maps and say divide it by a population of 18 and older, regardless of what party affiliation anybody is.
Yeah, and that's what should happen. But I mean, so you're giving a solution to a problem, and it seems that
Yeah.
people don't like that. People don't like being given solutions, right?
Yeah, but I think that's what people need. I mean, I'm hoping that's what's going to win this race for me is, when they ask a question and I can give them an answer to that question or a solution to it. Like you said, a solution to a problem. And if it's not something, if you don't like it, then let's talk about it. If you got a better solution to it, I want to hear it, because maybe we can incorporate it and make it better. That's the whole part of representing people is listening. That's the biggest part of it, is listening to people to understand what they really need and want.
Mhm. Yeah, and so gerrymandering is a problem, and also messaging is another problem. And I want to give this example because Democrats ran on, democracy is on the line. You need to vote because democracy is in danger. Uh, but then we see what happened during the primaries this time around, that Democrats didn't really hold any primaries, and they just voted for, or they internally chose Kamala Harris as the primary or as a general election candidate. But they kept the same messaging that democracy was at stake, and it almost seems like it was tone deaf. Okay, so I apologize. My camera just stopped working on me, so I guess we'll just continue the recording for now. But how I was talking, that it seems that certain messaging components, it's like they're really uh, making you feel a certain way, or making it seem that they could really play this thing and give you some messaging, even though they're presenting the exact opposite thing. And I mean, this goes both ways. It just seems that that's what politics has become. It's just like theater.
Yeah, yeah, that's I think is exactly right. Especially the last presidential cycle, it was they should have had a primary. They should have let the voters have. They're out of touch, and I think that's the easiest way of saying it. I think they're out of touch with the people they're supposed to be representing. It was even the way they ran that campaign is they changed midstream. They didn't have a primary where people could make a choice on who they wanted to be the candidate to run. if Biden wasn't running. And then during the thing, I don't think she done a very well job of hearing the people. They kept touting the same thing, that the economy was strong and that was doing well, but realistically, for working class people out there, no, they were still struggling. They were still not being able to afford to buy groceries. The cost was still high. I mean, yes, we had reasons for why it was where it was at, and it was coming down, but it was by far strong. I mean, that's not. So to me, they were just out of touch with the people that they were listening to, and I hope, I don't know if they've learned a lesson, and that's what happened in 16 when I said, when I changed over to the Democratic Party. I had a feeling that that's what was going to happen to Bernie Sanders when he changed, when he run, because he knew he couldn't win as an independent in a
Mhm.
presidential race, so he had to join the Republic or the Democratic Party in order to run and try to have a shot at winning that race. But it was the next up mentality of the Democratic on the national level, the Democratic Party. It was Hillary Clinton's turn, and they just kind of railroaded that campaign. And to me, and that's my honest opinion of how I feel about it, is Bernie won Oklahoma in the primary, and I really believe
Mhm.
if they would run it the way they should have and let the people be the ones that really make the decision, we wouldn't be sitting in the situation we are right now, because we've never had Donald Trump as president. I think
Yeah.
he'd win away.
And I mean, I was pretty upset when they railroaded Bernie Sanders. And it seems that uh, Democrats have, uh, like, the Democratic Party has found a way to keep, like wild card candidates out from the general election. But Republicans don't have that. And that's why they got someone like Donald Trump. But the Democrats will never have that. So when it comes to someone that people actually want in office, or at least the Democrats want to get to the general election, that will never really happen because you have people in power in certain committees that will always prevent that from ever happening.
And that's why the people have got to stand up and say they've had enough of it, and either take the party back, or maybe it's time for a different party. I mean, and that's the people need to have a voice, and that's the party has to understand that they have to come to the terms with, these are the people you're supposed to be representing. You need to get in touch with them. You need to understand what they need and what they want, and it should be the people telling you who's running in that office, not the party telling you who's running for that
Mhm.
office.
Yeah. And I just wonder what's going to happen because it seems that every election that we have now is this is the most important election of our lifetime, but it always is the same. And then 2 years after that, 4 years after that, you get the same message. This is the most important election of your lifetime. Like it's every 2 years, every midterm, every like a presidential election is this is the most important election of your lifetime, but it's just a constant messaging that you we have issues. These are the solutions to these issues. Then they get into office, and then like the issues persist, and sometimes even get worse.
Yeah, and it's just not following through, because again, the corruption that's in our government. That's the reason behind it.
Mhm.
They're bought and paid for by the people that are causing these problems. So until we remove that, that's going to continue to be a problem. We got to remove
Oh yeah,
the corporations out of this stuff.
yeah. But I just wonder what's really going to happen. But listen, I've had a really good conversation with you, and I'm sorry that it's been only probably about half an hour, and sometimes I get some technical difficulties. But I guess that's one of the things you get from trying to do everything on your own. But
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, I've had a really a good time having this conversation with you and talking about things that matter. And sometimes you don't get that, or you don't get to have conversations with certain people because it always seems that everyone's so uh concerned with their own opinions, and that's the certain opinions that they really want to push. uh and I just don't know why that is, because at the end of the day everyone just wants the same thing. Everyone just has a different opinion on how to get there.
Yeah. Absolutely, and that's we need more candidates to run that aren't really politicians. I guess is because
Mhm.
that's the problem. When the politicians are running, they don't really want to listen. They've already got their ideals made of what they want to do, and that's where
Yeah.
we need people that really want to represent. And to do that, you got to listen to the people. I mean, that's I'm not the smartest guy in the room for sure,
Mhm.
and that's the thing. I always want to put smart people around me to help me with decisions on things, but I want to know where the people stand. I mean, because
Mhm.
that's the people you're supposed to be representing.
Yeah, like, we need to get back to, being able to, disagree and know that it's okay. We're never going to agree on anything like 100%. And but it just seems that these past 10 years since 2016, we've gotten away from that. And we want everyone to agree with us 100%. And if they don't, like, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and that is a problem because, like you said, we're all not going to agree on everything.
mhm,
That's just human nature. Everybody's got their own mind on what they believe, and so that's you just got to take it and mix it together to make the best outcome.
mhm,
And
I
so
agree.
that's where we got to get to.
So, yeah. So, I really enjoyed this conversation with you.
I did as well. Thank you. This is the best part about running for an office is
Mhm,
actually having these conversations. When I go knock doors, I end up spending more time at a door than I probably should,
mhm,
but it's because having these kind of conversations. I love when I go to meetings,
mhm.
opening it up and just having question and answer from the people that attend it, because truly that's what it's about is getting to understand the people you're supposed to be representing.
Right. Yeah. So, I just wish you the best with your campaign. And, uh, it's, it's tough. It's tough running a campaign, but uh, it's, you don't really know what you're really going to expect once you start running the campaign and once you take that first step of running for office.
Yeah, I mean, I had no clue what I was getting into when I started. I got a little better idea of it now, and that's what I'm trying with the little bit of experience I
Mhm,
have. I've not won none of these races, but I've gained ground every time. And so as I'm going to different places, they got people run for state offices or even city council and things like that.
mhm.
If I see somebody that's running, it's their first time, I'm always eager to help them or go knock a door with them, help them, give them advice, little pointers, of something to make it easier for them because it is tough, and a lot of times we're doing this on our own because we ain't got the hundreds and millions of dollars to run the
Yeah.
campaigns the way the other side has. So it's those things that help, um, and it's just anything that anybody
Mhm.
can give or donate, even volunteer to go knock doors or talk to their friends and family. Those things help.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. And, I just wish you the best of luck.
I appreciate you.
All right. Well, have a good one.